Good morning. We continue our studies with Jeremiah chapters 29 to 31, which refers to the new covenant that's also mentioned in Hebrews chapters 8 and 10. Reading from chapter 29, Jeremiah's letter to the exiles. He's writing to those that's been taken to Babylon. Verse 1. Now these are the words of the letter that Jeremiah the prophet sent from Jerusalem unto the residue of the elders which were carried away captives, and to the priests, and to the prophets, and to all the people whom Nebuchadnezzar had carried away captive from Jerusalem to Babylon. After that, Jeconiah, the king and queen, and the eunuchs, the princes of Judah and Jerusalem, and the carpenters and the smiths were departed from Jerusalem. Verse 4. Thus saith Yahweh, God of hosts, the God of Israel, unto all that are carried away captives, whom I have caused to be carried away from Jerusalem unto Babylon. Build you houses and dwell in them, and plant gardens and eat the fruit of them. Take you wives and beget sons and daughters, and take wives for your sons, and give your daughters to husbands, that they may bear sons and daughters, that ye may be increased there and not diminish. Verse 8. Let not your prophets and your diviners that be in the midst of you deceive you, neither hearken to your dreams which you cause to be dreamt. For they prophesy falsely unto you in my name. I have not sent them, saith Yahweh. For thus saith Yahweh, that after 70 years be accomplished at Babylon, I will visit you and perform my good word towards you, and cause you to return to this place. For I know the thoughts that I think towards you, saith Yahweh, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you an expected end. Then shall you call upon me, and you shall go and pray unto me, and I will hearken unto you. And you shall seek me and find me, when you shall search for me with all your heart. And I will be found of you, saith Yahweh, and I will turn away your captivity, and I will gather you from all the nations and from all the places whither I have driven you, saith Yahweh. I will bring you again into the place whence I caused you to be carried away captive. Verse 30. Then came the word of Yahweh unto Jeremiah, saying, Send to all of them of the captivity, saying, Thus saith Yahweh concerning Shemaiah the Nehelamite, because that Shemaiah hath prophesied unto you, I sent him not, and he caused you to trust in a lie. Therefore thus saith Yahweh, Behold, I will punish Shemaiah the Nehelamite and his seed. He shall not have a man to dwell upon this people, neither shall he behold the good that I will do for my people, saith Yahweh, because he hath taught rebellion against Yahweh. My comment, as I said, Daniel chapters 9 verse 2 will be relevant to the 70-year prophecy. Some of Judah will return with Nehemiah and Ezra, but others will choose to stay in Babylon. As we read, they were told to plant houses and basically make a life there for themselves. Chapter 30. Restoration for Israel and Judah. Verse 1. The word that came to Jeremiah from Yahweh, saying, Thus speaketh Yahweh, God of Israel, saying, Write thee all the words that I have spoken unto thee in the book. For lo, the days come, saith Yahweh, that I will bring again the captivity of my people Israel and Judah, saith Yahweh, and I will cause them to return to the land that I gave to their fathers, and they shall possess it. And these are the words that Yahweh spoke concerning Israel and concerning Judah. Verse 8. For it shall come to pass in that day, saith Yahweh, God of hosts, that I will break his yoke from off the neck, and will burst thy bonds, and strangers shall no more serve themselves of him, but they shall serve Yahweh their God, and David their king, whom I will raise up unto them. Therefore fear thou not, O my servant Jacob, saith Yahweh, neither be dismayed, O Israel. For lo, I will save thee from afar, and thy seed from the land of their captivity. And Jacob shall return and be in rest, and be quiet, and none shall make him afraid. For I am with thee, saith Yahweh, to save thee, though I make a full end of all nations, whither I have scattered thee, yet will I not make a full end of thee. But I will correct thee in measure, and will not leave thee altogether unpunished. So note, only literal Israel is mentioned, meaning the 12 tribes in one case, and then divided into Judah and Israel other times. A king in the line of David will be raised up, who they shall serve. That is Yeshua the Messiah, who came from the line of David. Chapter 31, Yahweh will turn mourning to joy. Reading from verse 1. At the same time, saith Yahweh, will I be the God of all the families of Israel, and they shall be my people. Verse 3. Yahweh hath appeared of old unto me, saying, Yea, I have loved thee with an everlasting love. Therefore with loving kindness have I drawn thee. Again I will build thee, and thou shalt be built, O Virgin of Israel. Thou shalt again be adorned with thy tabrets, and shall go forth in the dances of them that make merry. Now the families of Israel includes their servants. That when they went into Egypt initially, the 12 households went. And it says these families, inclusive of the servants of different nations, and those attached to them basically, they shall be my people. So it's not just Hebrew by birth are God's people, it's the families of the Israel. Continuing from verse 31, chapter 31, verse 27. Behold, the days come, saith Yahweh, that I will sow the house of Israel with the house of Judah, with the seed of man, and with the seed of beast. And it shall come to pass that, like as I have watched over them, to pluck up, and to break down, and to throw down, and to destroy, and to afflict, so will I watch over them to build and to plant, saith Yahweh. In those days they shall say no more, the fathers have eaten a sore grape, and the children's teeth are set on edge. But everyone shall die for his own iniquity. Every man that eateth the sore grape, his teeth shall be set on edge. The New Covenant, chapter 31, verse 31. Pay attention to this one. Behold, the days come, saith Yahweh, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand and bring them out of the land of Egypt, which my covenant they broke, although I was an husband unto them, saith Yahweh. But this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel. After those days, saith Yahweh, I will put my law in their inward parts, and write it in their hearts, and will be their God, and they shall be my people. And they shall teach no more every man his neighbour, and every man his brother, saying, Know Yahweh, for they shall all know me, from the least of them unto the greatest of them, saith Yahweh. For I will forgive their iniquity, singular, and will remember their sin, singular, no more. Thus saith Yahweh, which giveth the sun for a light by day, and the ordinance of the moon and of the stars for a light by night, which divideth the sea when the waves thereof roar. Yahweh of hosts is his name. If those ordinances depart from before me, saith Yahweh, then the seed of Israel also shall cease from being a nation before me forever. My comment, the new covenant of 31 to 34 is repeated in Hebrews chapters 8 verses 8 to 10 and chapter 10 verses 10 to 17. Hebrews 10:17 says, And their sins and iniquities will I remember no more. Many people, due to incorrect translations in some Bibles, refer to the new covenant as the event of the last Passover, or what they call the Last Supper meal of Messiah in Matthew 26:28. It says, "For this is my blood of the New Testament, which is shed for many for the remission of sins." Also in Mark chapters 14:24, Luke 22:20, and 1 Corinthians chapter 11. As you can see from the King James Version I read above, the word in those verses is testament, not covenant, as some Bibles have changed them. The apostles would be able to testify that Yeshua was the promised Messiah coming through the line of David from their personal knowledge as eyewitnesses. Remember, he said to them to wait in the upper room and they would be eyewitnesses. No, the actual new covenant, one, is a covenant between the United Nation of Israel, not Christians who are grafted into Israel's promised covenant in Romans chapters 11, verses 16 to 27. Secondly, it relates to the last days, chapters 31-27, verse 31, 8, 32, chapter 42, chapters 33, verse 14, Ezekiel 37, verse 26, and Hebrews 8, verse 8. It will be based on an individual personal knowledge of God and His law. It says in Jeremiah 31, verses 33 to 34. It is also related to Daniel chapters 24 to 27. Now, the Christian translators, with good intentions, when translating the original Hebrew writing, may not have understood the Jewishness of the prophecies. In Jeremiah 31:34, God is referring to one major transgression. He refers to it in the singular, iniquity and sin. But in Hebrews chapter 8, verse 12 and 10:17, translators, they change the specific to a general with iniquities, plural, and sins, plural. That could change the focus and understanding of the reader. Many Bible versions have done a similar error, changing commandments, which God used to refer to the whole set given at Mount Sinai, the basis of the covenant, to command, which could mean any instruction. As a result, readers constantly miss the emphasis God puts, or the scriptures put, on keeping my commandments, as the set containing his appointed holy days in Exodus chapters 23, verses 14 and 20, verse 8. Now note verse 33 only refers to Israel, rather than Israel and Judah, as in verse 31. From the history we have read, we saw Israel was scattered and lost for a specific transgression. Judah, as told by Jeremiah, were only temporarily exiled to Babylon for 70 years and then returned with Nehemiah and Ezra. There, Israel's sin, which led to their scattering, will not be remembered once they have been reunited with Judah. This new covenant is not because the old one was faulty, but the people broke it. Like the old covenant, the new will also contain the law, with the only difference being where the law is written in one's heart. Rather than the book of Exodus chapters 24 verses 4 to 7. It would be on each believer's heart, natural and grafted in nationals of Israel, the congregation. So, learn God's laws and be obedient to them to receive his promised salvation. Shalom, until tomorrow, God willing.